started laughing again. Hey, everyone. Who are we? Oh, we're LDG. I'm Brooks.
And I'm Lizzy.
Wow. It's a concerted effort every time. And this is our fresh thoughts on Red Rising.
Yes.
I wish I'd had the box to go like this way for some reason. Let's do it again. Quick. And this is Red Rising. That was a really lazy rise.
Oh, wait, you want it to rise like this?
I mean, it's just, fail. Okay, anyway. We just played yet another game of it.
Yes.
He's so good.
It's really good.
He's so good.
Yeah, I am in love. Love.
Love.
Yeah.
Love. So, specifically, not love.
Yeah. What do we love about it? I love the low rule overhead.
Oh, super low rule. Once you, that is with the understanding that you understand synergy when it comes to cards.
Yeah, I would say that because I would also say, I mean, I understand that in terms of general rule overhead, it's a light game.
No.
You could get like somebody who doesn't really play often, but you would need to have somebody that's at least patient enough for kind of like a light mid or something because of the synergy and because of all the specific rules with specific cards, things like that.
But like Liz said, literally nil rules. Do you have a little card handy?
For the turnover view, like there's setup and end of game and turnover view. These are what you can do during your turn. It's like
that's literally the rules.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then this just shows, what it is, end of game, but that's it. That is the rules of the game, essentially, and it's just like, what comes from that is all these cards have their own things and how they interact, and it's just like, this is where the meat is, and this is where the meat should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The meat and potatoes is in the synergy. It's in the understanding the different classes and how they work together and, how they power each other up. And
I think it's like super rare to have a game that is such like, okay, let's look at the rules reference and that's all we need. But at the same time, have it be like you can get really crunchy and you can get really thinky with it. There's not very many where you can just learn it that quickly, and then also
exactly. So as a quick overview of the rule of the point scoring, it's essentially, if you want to throw a couple cards up.
Well,
Lizzy?
I have it on, it's front and back, so we'll just do our most recent game.
Well, can you throw a couple cards up really quick?
Oh, you mean like cards?
Yeah, cards.
We'll do a yellow and a green.
Okay, so at the top, there's a core point value, which is how many points you just get for having it in your hand, period. At the bottom is some synergistic information that can get you more points if you meet those conditions.
along with the deployability, which if you play it,
that not for points.
Yeah.
But they have. But we're talking about points. So then, if you could wipe everything off your camera there and point to the different tracks.
Yes. So we have the fleet track, which has the victory points underneath.
Which escalates pretty quickly in points.
Yeah, it does.
Exactly. And then, not that it's a track, but the Institute over here is kind of like an area majority sort of thing. Where Brooksy, he was green, he got 4 points because he had the most. He got 4 points for every one of these cubes over here. While I had second most, so I only got 2. And Kitty only got 1. So there was a whole lot of points over in this area.
And that beautiful little wolf's head.
Which is 3 points at the end of the game. Although there's other cards that interact with it as well.
So the fun thing is that you can really score your points in completely different ways. So if you could throw our score sheet back up. For instance, the last game we just did, if you look at the card scoring, Liz and I had the same amount of card points in our hands. We both had 137. And Kitty had 121, so you were right there with us. We weren't that far ahead of you.
No.
But we all mainly got either pulled ahead or fell behind because of the other categories. So you really can make up for it. in the other departments.
Yeah, like the Institute, for instance, has a maximum point value of 40, while the Fleet has a maximum point value of 43. So it's like, it's really interesting on how they're really similar.
And if you look at it that way, for instance, if you didn't focus on any of the tracks, there are one single card that can be worth 40 points.
Right.
So if you focus on the synergy of your hand, and like Kitty mainly did, and the last 2 playthroughs we did, Kitty focused on her hand synergy, got almost all of her points from that.
Yeah, she got 150 out of her 182.
Yeah, so that right there alone, that tells you how valuable the synergy can be.
Right.
So, for instance, in the last game we did, my hand was not great, and I had some really weak cards in it, because I had more cards than you in hand, Liz.
Yeah.
But we still had an amount of points. And I was like, I got to pull ahead on the tracks. It's the only way I'm going to win this, because I'm not getting what I need for my cards. So then it became about that.
Yeah, and that Institute was really awesome for you, although you invested a lot of time to get that many points, too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I almost feel like specializing in either like the Fleet or the Institute and like not going after both necessarily is probably a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, I don't think you want to dilute yourself too much, because if you like look at the beginning of the Fleet track, if you spend a lot of time just getting up to level 4,
it's only 10 points.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Like, if you're going to do it, you need to do it.
Yeah, like at first I was focusing on the Institute, but once I realized Brooksy was going to pull ahead, each one of my additional cubes was only going to be worth 2 points, which is when I decided to start focusing on the Fleet track, because as you can see, this jump was 4 points. And the next jump would have been 5. So it's like, after a certain point of knowing you won't be able to succeed in one, then you can pivot to another and try to make up some points that way.
That way you can pick your battles and you're not fighting a losing one.
Yeah. Not to mention what cards you get can also, help dictate that a little bit.
Change your mind after what you go after, exactly. I want to make a point that we talked about after our very first playthrough. I remember when we started. So one of the main things about the game is how you're kind of lost in the woods at the beginning. Do you guys want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, like you have your hand and you really don't know what am I going to do with this. So it's very open world almost, but it's very misdirect. Like you don't have any direction.
That's so funny because we're huge video gamers, and that is the perfect example. Yeah. It's like an open world video game where you have 10 side quests, your mission, and you're like, I don't know what to focus on right now.
Not to mention the outpost, and you want to play a game of Gwent. Like, there's so many options.
Collectibles, it's like that. And you're looking at your hand like, I don't know where to get traction from. And so it can be a little overwhelming in the beginning. And what I was going to say halfway through our first playthrough, I almost actually stopped our playthrough to ask them what they thought about it. I was going to say, what if we had like an objective card, a hidden objective card at the beginning that kind of gave us direction. And then I realized after we finished the playthrough, and then again this playthrough that we just did, the beauty of the game actually comes from being lost at the beginning and you have to create your strategy in the beginning, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of games don't actually provide you that freedom.
Right. And I mean, to use your video game reference, it's like the same thing. Like, you don't want your, like, classic Witcher, for example, to really feel like, okay, point A, point B, Mario. You know what I mean? Like, you want to feel... And I also feel like it kind of makes you feel like it's almost like you're writing your own story and you're really creating your own strategy, period. And you don't, I kind of like not having, and I love hidden objectives, but I kind of liked not having that because it felt like...
Well, that's what we came to the conclusion of at the end anyway, was that, you know what? We actually don't need an objective because that's the beauty of it, is finding your way through all the options and picking something and letting your strategy evolve. Yeah. So it's literally a deck of cards and some tokens,
and just
honestly.
Place to place the cards.
a place to place them, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the game. It's literally this deck of cards.
Oh.
And what you think, I think that is the beauty of it. And I think people will really find kind of, especially, I have to say, with playing it more now, knowing that feeling kind of evolves as you play it. Because I was so ready this time to be lost in the beginning and figure my shit out.
Which is something I did notice. Like last time I played Diana, so I was able to focus more on the Institute, while this time I played Mars. So while it's not you're going with this strategy type of thing, who you choose as your class does have a little bit of impact on your overall strategy. Like
a little bit.
Like last time you guys had an extra card for Kitty and just first and last turn for Brooksby, so it was completely open. While this time Brooksby had kind of like a random element, and Kitty and I were more focused.
Yeah, because I was on the fleet track.
Yeah, and I was on helium, which as you can see, I had more helium than Kitty.
Like quite a bit.
Yeah, and Kitty got further than me on the fleet.
It just feels like a constant, interesting tug of war, too, because so much is dependent on what you guys do.
Yeah, and where you place cards.
Exactly. And I think that adds a layer of strategy that is missing from a lot of games, where it doesn't really matter what you do on your turn. I just have to really make sure my strategy is strong. Whereas with this, my strategy can be strong, but if you guys have, are tactfully playing in ways that can be a detriment to me, it can completely change what I have to do. So I love that. I think that's cool.
And like there were a couple times like Kitty was about to place a card that would have been great for you, and because Brooksy went after Kitty on the location that it would have been great for you on. It's like, Kitty, no, don't do that.
I went after her in turn order. It's not like I was aggressively going after her.
It went Brooksy, me, then Kitty, and so anything Kitty laid down, if it was a perfect card for Brooksby, don't put it in the perfect location for Brooksby.
But I think the frustrating thing for me, just in terms of the randomness on this particular game, was pretty much everything I had that was useless to me was going to be great for you guys.
Okay, perfect example. You did not have hardly any traction in the beginning, and you were having a rough time. You are not that many points behind us.
No, I know. So
that's what I mean. Like,
it definitely...
You skyrocketed in points thanks to the fleet track.
Yeah.
And if you could have bumped up on that a couple more times...
And really, there were a couple times that if you would have scouted, instead of just playing a card and taking a random card, I feel like it would have been more beneficial to you. Because then you could have moved up on this fleet track more instead of taking another useless card.
Just to quickly explain scouting, it's when you just take off the top of the deck and place wherever you want, triggering whichever thing you want that you've placed on. So it's a good way to not have other people force your hand if you really need something.
Yeah, or if you already have a perfectly synergistic.
Exactly, which is essentially what I have the thing that we hold your cards in on my finger.
It's like your fidget spinner?
Yeah, exactly. So if you see it like come through the frame like,
yeah, that's my card holder. Those are my cards.
This is Lizzie's hand most of the time. And when she takes too long to pick a card, we just go like this.
Except I feel like I was not the one that had the most AP, although I am the one that has played this the most, which I feel, Brooksy has had the most AP. But I feel like the more you play, the more you understand the intricacies. That word.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kitty and I had quite a bit of AP, but her AP was stemming strictly from... It's so funny because we had AP in completely different areas. Yeah. I'm just thinking about it now. Hers was like diving in on her cards. How can I make my cards maximize my point values? Because it's where I'm going to be able to make up for my deficit on the tracks. Whereas mine was, if I put this in this place, then Liz will pick this up and she'll be able to use that. And she picked this up last turn and then she'll have to place, and then I won't be able to pick up from there. So my AP was like trying to forecast a few turns ahead what could possibly still be available or how I could drive the decisions of the other people. Because you can drive their decisions a little bit if you place something in an enticing spot for them where I know she's really going for this, but then she's going to be stuck with this card in her hand. She'll have to play again or something like that.
Right. And then as the game goes on, I almost feel like, you know, how in the beginning you feel directionless. I feel at one point you feel so directioned, for lack of a better word, that you're like, oh no, because it's like no matter what you do, yourself. It's like at one point, what's the term in poker or blackjack where you do it like with two hands or with two different sets of cards? You know what I'm like?
Not a poker player. Double-fisted. Sounds like it could be right.
I almost wish that I could have two separate, because I was like, okay, these guys synergize together and these guys synergize together. I want two hands.
But just think about it. Those two cards that ended up not synergizing perfectly for you, if you had been able to synergize them, you would have almost been tied with me.
Well, at one point I had...
That would have been like 60 more points almost.
Yeah, and at one point I had my oranges synergized, but I had to get rid of my gold because I had to get that sovereign token at the time, and then it also was not working with my math one, my math musician guy. So, you know.
So that just... I don't know. I think that just says a lot about it. What do you guys think? I think that we could ramble for it.
We could ramble on for the next year on this, probably.
Just this depth of cards is very deep in strategy.
Yeah, and I think we saw like what, maybe like a third to a quarter or a quarter to a third of the deck.
Yeah, you do not get very deep in the deck.
Yeah.
Like you think
so there is a huge amount of replayability, and there's been talk about booster packs for this. So a huge replayability in the box, huge strategy on the table, not a lot of rules overhead. This game, I am falling more and more in love with it every play.
Exactly.
It's like a fraction below 10 for me. Like, maybe the reason why it's not a perfect 10 is there's some cards that are kind of take that-y. And that kind of spoiled a part of one of our games. It's like, for instance, the last game, like, I lost 30 points on one card because Kitty targeted me. But if she would have targeted Brooksby, that could have turned who won the game.
See, I have a counterpoint with that, and I know you do too. Do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I actually was going to say my only possible slight negative, which isn't even really a negative, like I would give it a die 9.5. But I almost feel like, you know, like when we talked about it, when we played it the first time, we were like, we're not sure how interesting this would be to watch visually for people without us like talking a lot, etc., because it's not necessarily a fun game to just spectate per se. And I feel like that's partially because it might be slightly AP prone because there are...
I mean, it's the same concept as Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
The thing that makes Magic a little more exciting to watch is you get to see the battlefield build up and watch the stuff go down. But this is like Magic without having a battlefield, so that's why it can feel like that.
But
You're just watching people think about synergy.
And what kind of ties into that to me is like I felt like the take that aspects, along with like the shielding cards and the cards that, you know, I feel like that adds to player interaction.
Yeah,
I feel like there's not much direct player.
That's what I was going to...
Yeah, you guys tend to like more direct player interaction, while I tend to dislike that.
I don't think that the take that is that vicious. I just think, see, that was a very specific example. You would have struck her back with the next card.
Yeah, which I should have played on you, but still, it's like that whole thing of, like, she got to look at my hand and then say a card, shuffle them up, and then if she pulled that card out, I lost it. Turns out she pulled that card out.
So see what I mean? That's like luck, though.
Yeah, but it was just like, that was a turning point. Like, 'cause if she would have targeted you and that would have happened to you, I would have won the game instead of you. Because that was a 30-point card and you only won by...
The thing about that is I think that's kind of exciting because it blends what a lot of different things with luck, with just a smidge of take that, and it's not the kind of take that can make you not able to compete, though. So, like, if you look at the scores from that game, our scores were still really tight.
Yeah, except, I mean, Kitty and I were close, but you were... I was at 186, you were at 233.
But there's so many variables.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it was really hard with 4 cards.
And it was at the time, the reason why was because it was very early on in the game, and I knew you had a gold, and it was related to a gold. So I was like, okay, I already know you have a gold, so it just made sense. And at the time, it could be anybody.
And at the time, you were vastly ahead of us.
On the Institute.
We were scared, and I had no cards in my hand that could get me influence at the time. So I just think that's the beauty. That's just another aspect of the beauty of the game, is that, for instance, you just said how hard it was for 4 cards, but your point, you were still really tight in the pack. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what any of the stuff, like, my cards did not synergize this playthrough. You didn't do as well on the track. So you've had take that incident that happened. I just feel like there's so many rich ways to invest your time while you're playing the game. I just think that's why it's so attractive to all of us in different ways.
Because it's very, it's a really interesting mix of randomness and strategy. Yeah. And I really love all of that. So.
Well, we have been running our mouths for probably longer than any of our other Fresh Thoughts videos.
Yeah, a little bit.
One final thing I'd like to say, the artwork is so diverse. Yeah, it's so cool. People that, you know, we could think of as queer characters, tons of people of color, different ages, everything.
Races, ages, everything is diverse.
Do you guys have a favorite card?
I have no idea. It would take us too long to look through the deck.
Well, I have a couple favorite. I mean, mine from the book is Severo, and he looks pretty cool in this one. But as far as artwork favorite, it's another gold. But Aja, she's so stunning.
They're amazing. Yeah, and remote play, it's a breeze.
Yeah.
We have no issues. She separates the cards by colors, we name them, and she puts them out. It's that easy.
And then in the hand, you just do, 1 through 5. Yeah. So, easy.
So, yeah, for me, like I said, the first playthrough was a 9. I had a feeling after subsequent plays it would be higher, and it is. It's a solid 9.5. If I allowed quarters, I would say 9.75, but I don't.
Yeah, you don't.
I don't do that for myself, so.
So you better not
because
start now.
You know what I'm like. Then later on down the road, I'll be like, it's a 9.8762.
Well, that is more accurate. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Oh, not doing math like that. So yeah, 9.5.
Yeah, mine's still my only side is to take that. I'm not a take that player for some games. Like, this game is one that I would prefer no take that in. So it's a 9.75 for me.
Really? You would say no take that?
Yeah, I mean, the strategy comes from, like, where you place the cards at.
But see, I think the take that is an equalizer a little bit. I agree. Because, for instance, the light take that cards, like the take a helium from somebody.
Or Banish,
but take a helium from somebody, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not a take that to me. That's like a player interaction, but just like causing someone to lose a card. Like, I didn't really like playing him, but I didn't like this one could have made it so you guys lost a card. But I was hoping to banish this because I wanted reds banished.
I think you're scarred from that interaction.
Maybe, but I don't.
I can't say, and because you're a statistics brain person. That was the stars aligned for that.
It did. It's just I'm saying that it can happen.
But it's so rare. You happen to have a gold. She happened to pick it right.
Well, actually, she banished my blue. It's just.
And she happened to have a condom card when you tried to get her back. So it was just everything aligned perfectly for Kitty, and it didn't pay off for her.
Yeah, I still placed last, and I still have to say, like, even if I had been the target of those cards, I still would have loved to take that aspect.
I just think all of it. I just think we're getting back into it.
To stop.
I feel like we could talk about this game forever.
Yeah, I think that's just a preference thing, but I still like the game more than you according to our ratings, so.
I just think that says a lot about the game itself. We're still sitting here talking about it, and that's every time we play it. We sat here this long last time and talked about it afterwards. Yeah. So that's an endorsement. What about you?
I totally agree. I'm thinking 9.5, and now I can't wait because now I can finally listen to my Audible book.
Yes! Because, we should have mentioned how each of us view this game. Like, I have, because of this game, I've read all the Red Rising. I have fallen in love with the universe. Absolutely adore it. So, and I like Stonemaier games because, Jamey's a great person, but their quality is always excellent. So whenever Stonemaier announces a game, I'm always intrigued. And then I make my opinion based on the theme and the mechanics. Well, we'll let Brooksy continue that.
I had Kitty and I both went into this with no knowledge of the books at all. And you don't have to be a fan of the series. It has zero bearing on... You could put, even if you don't have any interest in reading it after you get the game, the artwork is so rich and diverse and beautiful, you could put your own mental lore into it and be just fine.
Or if you're just a Euro gamer, the mechanics are just fantastic.
Yeah. I feel like this would appeal to people who mainly just play card games, people who play Euro, and people who play light games, even.
Yeah. Or people that are super into the theme, too, of course.
Yeah. You would have to have a light learning curve for people who are just into light games.
I agree. I don't
because synergy is something that is learned through play. It just is. It's learned through doing it over and over and understanding the different types of synergy. But, yeah.
And I can't wait to
We're still talking about it.
I know, right?
Of the characters. I love that, you can find out certain possible interactions between different characters and the representation that has, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it's great because some of the characters have to be paired with some other characters, and Liz is going like this because she doesn't want any spoilers for the book, but...
I've been very good at the, so this person's with this person, I don't know.
Yeah, right?
Although there are some interesting must be with this one, must not be with this one that reminds me of some things which we won't be talking about. Read the books.
That's what I think is great, because you can make your own story in your head because it says, okay, character A has to be, or if they're with character B, you get a ton more points. You're like, oh, they must be lovers, they must be family, they must be comrades, they must be whatever. You can make it whatever you want. So I think that's great. Okay, well, I think we should stop talking about it because it's going to be an hour long. But we highly endorse it. We think it's a great game. We think you should check it out if you like any of the words we said.
Literally any of them.
Any of the words. Pumpernickel.
I was trying to think of a really cute, funny name-sounding word, and nothing was coming to my mind.
There you go. Kumquat. Like that word? Check it out.
Cucumber.
I do like cucumbers. I like watermelon, too.
Food. Why did all the words were food? Okay,
They
anyway.
were healthy foods.
Okay, this was what? Fresh Thoughts.
Yes.
This was Fresh Thoughts, and we are LDG.
And until next time, just remember to have fun.
Memorize your lines.
And
and be present.
Okay, that's right. And be you. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you find value in our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let a family or a friend member know that we exist. Help us spread our channel and bring remote gaming to a table near you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.